Hi guys. Today I want to go through just my philosophy, my basic philosophy, some of the changes I've made to drills that you would have seen over the past years, drills that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years, and give you my spin on how I do them. Most of what I do is not brand new. Most of what I do, I've seen the best coaches do, and already I would assume some of the athletes are already doing. The difference I feel I make is the key things I want in acceleration and max velocity, I'm trying to make sure I get throughout my drills, throughout every single component of my training. So it begins with walking, and that's where we'll start. So there's a reflex that goes on in the ankle that innovates extension throughout the whole chain. It's a timing reflex that is developed from birth.
Walk. No niin. Looks very...
And we all know how to walk. It's not rocket science.
Kävelystä lähdetään. Tässä ei ole mitään tieteellistä eikä mitään vaikeaa.
So the key things that we're setting up in walking, I kind of want to see in drills. So I start with a walking A. So I just want you to...
Ja sitten lähdetään tuosta polvennostoon, niin kuin nähdään. Ja hän kiinnittää huomiota tiettyihin asioihin, jotka tässä meille varmasti selviävät harjoituksen aikana.
Okay. So in understanding their walking pattern, I can start to teach the things I want to see in upright sprinting. So on observing, the first things I see, the two major things I see is where does he choose to contact the ground and how does he recover his leg. The two ways you can recover your leg is a low recovery where the knee hardly bends, or a high recovery where the heel goes straight to the hamstring and so the leg can attack the ground from the top. My analogy is a hammer. I think and I believe if you want to have a really strong lever, you need to attack the ground from above rather than from a low position. Where the only time this differs is in acceleration, but we'll talk about that next. So in a walking drill, firstly, I just want to make sure they know how to go heel to hamstring. Yeah. Yes, good. So he says he doesn't understand English, he understands English.
No niin, tässä on kielimuuria, jota ei todellisuudessa olekaan. Nämä on tällaisia nämä.
So stop. Can we see a difference? Ask them. Can they see a difference?
Näkyykö ero edelliseen?
Yes? Okay. So it's easy to do in walking, it's harder to do in drills. But at least as a coach and an athlete, I'm starting to make a connection. He understands what I want in my drills and he understands the feeling of what it feels like.
Eli tässä kävelysuorituksessa saatiin aikaan sitä muutosta ja oleellista tässä nyt on niin kuin valmentajan ja urheilijan välinen yhteys, että urheilija tiedostaa ja ymmärtää, mihin kohtaan täytyy kiinnittää huomiota ja hän oppii niin kuin myös tuntemaan sen, että miten tämä...
Okay. So this is a typical drill. We call it A-skip. Most people do it around the world. Can you do the same?
Ja tässä tämmöinen tyypillinen harjoite, jota tehdään ympäri maailmaa.
Okay, Jasmine, walk back. So I want more heel to hamstring. So less low recovery. Can you get your foot? Yeah? Just do it small. Good, fine. Walk back. But I also want what Franz Bosch calls an extension reflex. So we have a great reflex where if we stand on a pin or something hot, we get off the leg really quickly. So the reflex, what it really does is it tells the leg that is wanting to extend to flex really quickly, and the opposite leg, it forces it to extend really quickly as well. It's a reflex we all have. We use it all the day, every day. If we trip over something, quickly the leg will come in front. It's a reflex we use in sprinting. So why don't we practice it in a drill? It can feel very foreign to athletes when it's new, but for me, it's the best way to drill. So.
Tämä voi aluksi tuntua vähän oudolta, mutta
no good.
Eli selkeämpi rytki ja saksaava liike tuolla ilmassa ja terävämpi alas. Now it looks better.
Much better, yeah.
Okay.
And he learned it very quickly.
No niin.
I'm surprised. Very good. Can you do the same?
Yllättävää.
Switch in the air. Good.
No niin.
So this is a very important distinction I make in my drills.
Eli siis tämä saksaava liike, tehokas, nopea jalan polkaisu, joka sitten reflektorisesti myös ihan refleksitasolla siis tukee ton toisen jalan aktivointia.
So I like the way he does drills a lot. He's very stiff on his contact and his pelvis is all the way under him so you can see the vertical bounce.
Mikä oli hyvä homma.
Okay, come back, Jasmine. The difference with Jasmine is she, when we talk about that reflex, it's either flexion or extension. What's his name, sorry? Jane's reflex is always to extend. He's always really long on extension. Jasmine is more focused on flexion. So her spine will close a bit in order to aid flexion, and her extension on the ground isn't her focus at the moment. You want that extension to be the focus and the flexion to happen as a result. Okay, that was better with the extension. Can now do it the way I taught you before. To switch in the air. Let's go again. So the extension, you hit the ground harder, which is good, but you need to switch in the air.
No niin, edelleen korostetaan tiukka alaspaino ja todella tämmöinen saksaava liike tuossa ilmassa. Looks better or?
Yes.
But not to the...
But not to the...
Okay.
So, just with a small change of emphasis, we can start to get more extension. We can start to get more of an erect trunk. Again. Oh, very good. You hit the ground harder. That's what I want. Now, I want you to go heel to hamstring to hit the ground.
Eli nyt
stand. Put your hand on my shoulder.
Edellinen oli ihan jo parempi, eli tuli terävä alaslyönti, hyvä saksaava liike, mutta kantapää ei mennyt pakaran kautta riittävästi, ja nyt sitten fokus on siinä, saadaanko nämä kaksi yhdistettyä.
Again. Okay. Good, stop. Okay. So the pattern's right. Let's walk this way. The pattern's right, but now is the force correct? So the pattern is right, I like it. But now she needs to really emphasize that on ground contact, what is she doing? Is she just touching the ground and going forward? Or is she touching the ground and actually getting a vertical impulse?
Pyöräytystä eteenpäin.
Okay. Higher.
Lazy.
So she got more vertical, but she forgot to switch. So you can see switching becomes an issue. When these guys are going at faster and faster speeds, their ability to get off the ground and switch their legs becomes one of their major limiting factors. So if we can't do it here, how can we expect them to do it at 10 meters per second? So already I've started to put Jasmine in a box in my mind. I know what kind of athlete she is. I know she's very good at spinning her wheels, but can she apply force and switch at the same time? That is my question. Small dribble. Yeah? No? As soon as you come off the ground, toe must come up. Toe up. Yeah?
No niin, mennään eteenpäin.
Okay. So this is what I call a dribble. People call it ankling. People do it over small hurdles, but we call it a dribble. We like to do small dribbles, medium dribbles, and big dribbles. By the time you get to a big dribble, it's near enough like sprinting. Small, medium, big. But even in a small dribble, you can start to figure out what are the athletes good at, what are their habits, what aren't their habits. Go one more time.
Tästä äsken nähdystä matalasta triplauksesta niin sanotusti, niin pystyy tietysti näkemään, missä urheilija on hyvä ja miten hän tässä toimii. Ja
Okay, it's like a small sprint, small. And again, I really like the way Jasmine does that. Can you do it a bit bigger now? Bigger.
Joo, tämä menee hyvin. Vähän korkeammalta.
So, one of the key things we're looking for, let me do one more, even bigger now.
Edelleen korkeammalta pyöräytyksiä.
Good, same, bigger.
Sama homma, just näin.
So what we can look at, I've got hardly anything to correct of these guys, so that's good, but what we can start to look at is what is the cycle we want in upright sprinting. There's two options. When you finish pushing, there's two options to get your leg back ready to run again. What we want to see is the knee and the hip flex at the same time. So what we want to see is a bend at the same time. What we don't want to see is the knee to bend first before the hip, which goes back to my heel to hamstring movement. If you feel heel to hamstring, then the leg, literally as soon as you finish on the ground, the leg will be in front, ready to strike. What interferes with that is how much time it takes for the athlete to produce force on the ground. At slower speeds, it's easier, but at faster speeds, that starts to be the distinguishing factor between good athletes and great athletes. So, I want to start like that. Yeah, like what you just did. Again. And by halfway, I want you to start running, start sprinting. Yeah, so you start there, you get bigger, 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 and go. Yeah?
Lähdetään tuosta triplauksesta, joka laajenee pikkuhiljaa ja sitten päätyy ihan normaaliin pikajuoksuun tuossa vaiheessa.
Okay, yes. So, we'll see one more. You start from there.
No niin, otetaan yksi sieltä päin lähtien.
You go again. So I see two different profiles there. I see Jasmine, who can really rip her foot off the ground. That flexion reflex, she can do really, really well. But what she maybe doesn't do so well is use that position to produce force. Her hip kind of stays level to the ground. It doesn't really oscillate. And her leg kind of lands with too much flexion in the knee. So you can tell her hip flexors are well developed, and maybe the focus needs to be on making sure the posterior chain is more activated, more innovative. So the simple fix for me is to hit the ground harder and to bounce higher. She has to feel that at the moment, if her hip feels like it's here, she has to feel like she can run at this position with a higher hip. And with that hip height comes a different coordination pattern, a different strength requirement for the glute. The angle is in a different position. The isometric abilities are developed at a specific angle. So now if I'm asking her to be at this angle, at this height, her hamstring and glute will have to learn how to be strong, stiff, elastic at this length. So that isometric phase is very linked to when she has late swing and the leg comes back down, what angle is she happy to contact the ground at? Is she happier at this angle because the quad can be more involved, or what I would like her to do is to be happier at this angle, which is far more involvement of the hamstring. So simply as a coach, I will tell her to hit the ground harder, more under her body, and be taller. And John, he's different. I feel like he's strong. I feel like he's powerful. I feel like force output isn't the issue. They've almost got two different ends of the spectrum. But I don't feel like it's a habit to get his heel to the hamstring and work the ground. So I want to stay bouncy. Yeah?
No niin, nyt on ohjeet annettu ja
Stop.
annetaan lisää ohjeita.
Even from here, you must pick it up straight away. You can't start, just because it's small doesn't mean you do this. Yeah?
Remember the heel.
Yeah. Yeah?
Kantapää mielessä alusta lähtien.
Okay, good. Keep going up. Good. And go forward more. Good. Keep going up. Keep going up. Keep going up. So it's quite interesting with him. He can do the positions nicely, but as soon as he comes into speed, he loses this pickup. When he gets any faster, he has to spend more time on the ground. So that is just basic rate of force development. Reactivity, explosivity. So even though he's explosive in one-off movements, you can tell he could probably jump very high. You can tell he can produce force at slow speeds. But as soon as the speeds increase, he has to spend more time to produce that force. So Jasmine got the understanding. She understood what I want and she did it. She did it well. So the next step for me is making sure she does it even better. So let's go back. So reactivity, explosivity is driven by the hip and the knee and ankle. Short ground contacts are more to do with the knee and ankle stiffness, and force production is more to do with the hip. So athletes that are more used to using the ankle and foot, when they are at slower speeds or when the requirement is low, they tend to shut off the hip, because they know they can get enough from the ankle. So even at slow speeds, even at small movements, I want to see the right proportion of hip and ankle in use. Okay, let's go. Good, up higher. Good, good. Now, add some forward. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, add forward, keep it up.
No niin, siinä on ihan konkreettista juoksuvalmennusta havaittavissa.
Is there a difference? Yeah? Okay, fine. Jean.
Kaikki nyökkäilee, hyvin menee.
So, I have to go with you. Can you translate for me to him?
That's right.
Tell him this beginning is nice, but towards the end, he has to get off the ground. Okay? Go forward, go forward, go forward.
Pelkistetty ohje.
So sometimes when you go forwards, when you want to go, this happens. Yeah? You must always squeeze. Yeah? So you must always feel this. Yeah.
No niin, lantion asentoon kiinnitetään huomiota myös niin kuin alussa hitailla nopeuksilla. Ei kelpaa, uusiksi meni.
I know it's not good when you leave the ground and your toes are pointing. Yeah? As soon as you leave the ground, toes up, ready for the ground. You want to think about hitting the ground before you actually hit it. You can't wait and then decide. When the leg is here, you're already hitting the ground. Yeah?
Eli tuossa jalan kontaktissa sitä pitää jo ajatella
Good.
tietoisesti.
Push up higher. Good. Keep the height. Keep it. Keep it.
Nyt oli korostusta siinä, että lantio pysyisi korkealla. Was it correct?
Yes. Good. Good. Get off the ground. Get off.
Jonas is one of the first strength sprinters in the Europe.
Strength sprinters.
Yes.
Not one of the first. There's many of them. And it makes sense that that's how he is, because he's ran 7.0, he's ran 11.1, but he's jumped 7.43. It doesn't correlate in my head.
So means he should jump less, or?
Off of the speed, he should jump less. And because he doesn't jump less off of the speed, that means he's a strength jumper.
Okay. Okay, what was the point?
So straight leg scissor drill. For me, it's a great way to strengthen and stiffen the hamstring. It's a great way to work on isometric stiffness ready for the contact. It's also a great way to start to understand the dynamics for the athlete. At smaller speeds, where do they land on the ground? How high do they push the hip? How long do they spend on the ground? How far behind the hip does the ankle go? At faster speeds, what happens? Does everything grow together? Does stride rate and stride length grow together? Does hip height grow as well? Does the contact stay beneath the body, or do they start to have to drift out in front? 9 times out of the 10, the issues you see here, the dynamics you see here, you will also see in max velocity sprinting. So it's a great opportunity for me and the athlete to develop a language very early in training. From week 1, we're doing all of these drills. So even if you can't incorporate max velocity sprinting until after GPP, until maybe 8, 10, 12 weeks after training, you can start to work on the key things very early on. Okay, so next time, when you feel like you're moving fast, just turn into running. Yeah?
Normaaliin juoksuun.
So it's very obvious that Jasmine's choice is turnover and Jan's choice is stride length. So for Yasmin, I'm going to really focus on raising her hip and on opening the stride length. And when I say stride length, I don't mean opening by striding longer. I mean by hitting the ground harder and traveling further in the air. And for Jan, my focus is going to be switching. When he's waiting to push, but we've got no time to push. You've got no time to wait to push. You've got no time in the world to feel the ground and then decide to push. There's no time. In fact, if you wait to push, you're using concentric strength. You're using concentric strength that you get from the gym. It's too slow. It's good that he can produce that force. You need to be able to do that in the gym. But now the next step is, can he turn that force into isometric force? Isometric strength, elastic strength. Can he produce the force before he hits the ground? Can he produce the force here? Here's where all the work should be happening. So by the time he lands on the ground, he's already off the ground. Jasmine, you heard what I said? You heard what I said about you? Yeah? So I want the hip to be high. I want you to feel you've got more time to push. Yeah? You've got more time. It's funny because they also do two opposite things. Jasmine's knee never goes past her hip. So her knee, when she hits the ground, it goes to about there, then it gets off the ground. So it's good. That means the knee will come forward really quickly. But it means that maybe she's not applying enough strength. She's not waiting enough time. And here the contradiction, that is my contradiction, is one person is spending too much time and the other person perhaps isn't spending enough time. And enough time on video maybe is just 1 inch.
No niin, lantiota korkeammalle.
Whew, I'm out of breath. So I think with the same drill, you can edit it depending on the athlete's strengths. Because the coordination needed to move his limbs quicker and to have the stiffness, the whole system stiffness, ready for that contact, that's his limiting factor. Whereas for Jasmine, we know she can move her limbs quickly, but can she produce more force on her ground contact? And that's what I would focus on. I'll spend the next 12 weeks focusing on doing what they normally do, the normal drills, the normal running sessions, but making sure they do it the way I've talked to them about today. Any questions?
Asking about the pre-activation of the ankle area, is it still important when you hit the ground? During the pre-activation, it's really active and you hit it.
Yes, I think the pre-activation is one of the most important things. There's no point. So they talk about whip from the hip. Yeah. So from that top position, the order of firing is hip, knee, ankle, an extension. But if the hip and the knee produce loads of force, but the ankle is soft, you don't get fast. If the hip and knee produce loads of force, but the contact is in front, it's also useless because it's a break. You can't use the whole system stiffness. So I want to move on to acceleration, but is there any more questions about what my goals are, what my cues are for max velocity sprinting? John?
You can apply your job to the farmer's place here during the summer. Good man for that.
And Jasmine, come and stand on it for me. So very clearly, I talked about, relax. You're not going to push her, don't worry. What differs in acceleration? The major thing that differs is in upright sprinting, we talk about the knee and the hip flexing at the same time. But in acceleration, the hip dominates flexion. The knee flexion is a bit delayed. So rather than the hip and the knee flexing to make a cycle in drive, the knee flexes and the foot stays on the ground like a piston. Difference, cycle, piston. And then the second thing is the shin angle. When the knee is finished in front, the shin angle is similar to the body angle. If the shin angle on contact is similar to the body angle, you can push straight away. If the shin angle is not the same as the body angle, you have to wait, then push. If the leg recovery is low, then when the leg comes through, the shin angle is ready to push straight away. If the leg recovery is a cycle, the shin angle is likely to land out in front, so you have to wait before you can push. It's not only inefficient to have a cycle and to land with correct shin angles, it's also a way of preventing injuries. Just as athletes are easily injured in the bottom of a deep squat, or if they spend most of their time rolling the knee forward and medial, the same issues, the same mechanics happen if they have to land and roll before they can push. You want to come? Just walk.
No niin, nyt töihin.
Good. So stop. So what I'm looking for is a full extension from ankle to neck. And if this was running with a sled or just accelerating, you would expect the spine to stay the same even though his arms are working. There's also an order, so stand up, sorry. There's also an order, so even though you're in an angle, even though it feels like it could be a quad dominant movement, the hip is still the driver. This means that even though there's stiffness on the contact, most of the effort is at the end of the push, not at the beginning of the push. Those are the key mechanics of what you want to see in acceleration. How many minutes? 2 minutes? 1 minute.
No niin,
Now let's see if we can see what they do normally. Let's line up on that white line.
We want to see how they start. Right?
Yes, we want to see how they start. We'll do... no. So there are different ways that I start. Early in the season, I just do a rollover start. It's just like how you was doing yesterday. Yeah. Okay. So there's a shape we want to see in acceleration. We want to see nice angles. We want to see nice shins. We also want to see that when the body weight is on the front leg, that the back leg is already coming through. But we also want to see that even the start position, even in just a rollover, that the position is similar to what we want in the run. So if that's your angle, that's your angle. When you're ready to go, you're not allowed to squeeze and then come out of it. If that's your angle, be stiff, be ready, roll and push from that angle. That's your angle. So if that's the right angle, that's fine. Keep that angle and just roll. Okay, good. I like good angles. I'm happy, but it's slow. Yeah.
Better.
So a bit better. So you see, he pushes, and it's like he pauses. There's a pause. When you finish pushing, snap out of it. Push again. There's no weight. There can't be any weight. Okay, let's go again. So I really like the angle, and I feel like you rolled to a lower angle. Did it feel lower than normal? Yeah? So because it was lower than normal, the leg wasn't ready. Yeah? And that's generally what happens. If you set up someone's first step to be better, to be lower, to push more horizontal, they have to develop a new timing of the recovery leg. So set up the same angle and snap. So it's just finding the timing of, you found a new angle, you found this new horizontal. The leg is ready, usually ready to be here. Now it has to push again early.
Onneksi Atte saa tämän kaiken videolle, niin tämä homma lähtee tästä nousuun.
So because he's a strength athlete, if I put him in his comfort zone, which is strength and slower movements, it's easier for him to make the changes I want to make. Yes. Come on. Okay, good. We go again. Again. So I was being light. Now I'll be heavy now. So you have to keep pushing me. Yes. Okay.
Was it better?
Much better. That's for me. Finish now.
Okei, tää oli tässä. Thank you.